Over 50% of Thai students, they want to study abroad because Bangkok, quote unquote, lacks the opportunity here.
Thai people were really just want like relaxing jobs.
Hey, we're like smart, intelligent people. We're Thai people. We're great.
Do you feel like going abroad is their only chance of social mobility?
If you look at Google, or like a lot of the time is in Singapore. Right? Like I think the question we have to ask is why is that a case?
Thailand right now, there's a lot of wealth inequality. If you're not already rich, there's not a lot of opportunity to get rich.
I went to an education expo in Bangkok packed with some of Thailand's brightest students, many from international schools and Ivy League universities. I'm talking about Harvard, Cornell, Princeton. I asked them, if you study abroad, do you feel a responsibility to come back and help Thailand? We also talked about what's really holding the country back. Is it the system, the economy, or is it just the culture? And what some of these students said might actually surprise you. Let's get into it.
Over 50% of Thai students, they want to study abroad because Bangkok, quote unquote, lacks the opportunity here. Do you feel like the city is failing the young people, or is it on us to create our own opportunity?
I think you can create your destiny with conscious choice, but then it depends on what you want with your life. Say you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, then you have to create your own path to become that version of you who can be a lawyer. But honestly, I feel like to say that Bangkok has less opportunity than America, I think it's quite unfair because I feel like everywhere has opportunity. It just depends on how you seize it. But America is definitely filled with opportunities too, and it just depends on what you want to do.
I feel like the city is failing students, like young people nowadays. I feel like there's a lot of structural problem. There's not a lot of job opportunity in like high-paying field like consulting, tech. There's not a lot of startup going on right now. But at the same time, it's also on young people like us to kind of build our own path to kind of help fix the city. Because at the end of the day, right, we're all Thai, we're all gonna have to live here for like a long time.
I used to think that Bangkok didn't have a lot of opportunities, but when you actually like open your horizon and see like what is actually out there, there's a lot to do. I work in the government affairs consultancy field, and I had no idea what this was when I was growing up. I thought I had to be a lawyer or work as a bureaucrat, but then afterwards, I realized there was a high-paying job in my government field. And so I think oftentimes if you keep looking, there is gonna be like a great opportunity for you somewhere in Bangkok. This is a lively city. The economy is not doing so well, but overall I think there's stuff to do.
Thai people are always open-minded in my opinion, because like I feel like I'm also open-minded, come from a international school, meaning that like, I'm willing to accept other people's opinion. And because of that, we want to challenge ourselves by going abroad and actually learning how like other people see how like the business works or how like other things works, like the infrastructure you're talking about, and use that to improve our country on our own.
I think if we're talking about leaving for opportunities with education, it's always been attractive to go abroad to the US or the UK or Australia. But then the question is, do you want to come back to Thailand and establish yourselves here, or do you want to become an immigrant and to establish yourself in another country? And that's really an individual thing. But if the question is about kids who have an opportunity to study abroad and then maybe come back to Thailand and establish themselves, the question is, where will they be working? What are they going to be doing, right? There's so many industries now that you don't need to have a local base. There's a lot of people doing like digital nomad, for example, like IT or online businesses. But then if we're talking about industry in Thailand, it is tough because we are not as competitive as a lot of other countries like China or even Vietnam. Then there's a lot of great things about Thailand too. I think there's opportunities here for young people to start their own business especially.
In terms of opportunity, I feel like in certain fields, I think Thailand is still lacking a lot of people. For example, especially in AI, I think not a lot of people who graduated from AI or like doing AI in general, which is actually a good thing for Thailand because I think that is where you have a lot of opportunity to do, right? For example, if you're in the state, then a lot of the time you want to do AI, then you literally need to have a PhD in AI to be able to do like super deep stuff or like super complicated stuff. But then once you come back to Thailand, there's not a lot of people who can do this. What they will allow you, or they will let you to do experiment a lot more, or allow you to do something that's way more complicated than what you can do. I think in terms of the job itself, I guess in that field or something like that, Thailand might be better. But I do understand that another thing is like living cost with the pay that you do is not really proportional in Thailand compared to the state.
There might be a gap in the market for specifically AI in Bangkok, which makes it easier for Thai students to get into that field if they are qualified and have the background for it, right?
But I think it's also like the work itself that you do is, I guess it's more interesting than the US, because I think the US, if you want to do something that is more interesting or more advanced, then they will let PhD to do it because there's a ton of PhD in AI right now in the state.
Do you feel like we have an innate responsibility to come back and grow Thailand with the opportunities that we have gained from abroad?
Of course, I agree with that because I feel like it's like a long-term investment from your family. You're willing to put so much money into your education and like abroad, and you should use that knowledge that you learn from that place and bring it back to the country you're from.
Definitely. I feel like with the skills and experience you acquire internationally in countries like United States and also United Kingdoms, I feel like it's an obligation, to use your skills and also your knowledge to empower like people in Thailand and also the economy.
I don't think everybody has to come back. Preferably, I would prefer people came back because, we don't want to have the brain drain. However, I think, if you do want to stay abroad, I think you should at least be a good ambassador for Thailand. Like show people from across the world, like, hey, we're like smart, intelligent people. We're Thai people. We're great. And so maybe they can come back to our country as well.
If they're getting support to go to the States, for example, to go to these universities, I think there is an implicit bargain that you come back and you pay it off either through working for the organization or working within Thailand to kind of, say thank you for this opportunity in a way. And you have time to do that for a few years that you can even use that to build your profile and your skills. And then if you decide you want to do your own thing, then you still have time to do that.
With low wages and high living costs in Bangkok, is going abroad the only real shot at success in your opinion? Obviously, this is we're in a very privileged area. I'm privileged, you're privileged, we're all privileged here. But for those who are not in our social economic class, do you feel like going abroad is their only chance of social mobility?
I don't think it's the only answer because I feel like Thailand and also other countries in Asia are like same level as the US nowadays. And I feel like that a lot of people are also doing it now. It's like a trend where you can study where you're from. I see a lot of people from my school studying in Thailand and they're still having the same level of education that we do abroad.
It's not your only shot, but it's your best shot because I feel like Thailand right now, there's a lot of wealth inequality. If you're not already rich, there's not a lot of opportunity to get rich. So there's not a lot of pathway forward, if I'm gonna be honest. So yeah, I feel like it's better to like stay in another country if you really want high-paying job.
So for better opportunity and life quality, I feel like people now have to really understand the narrative and trend of where the world's going to go with regards to AI, automation, artificial intelligence and everything like that. I feel like it's really not what country you're in, but kind of like the knowledge and skills you have. So it just depends on your character, your avatar, like your personality. But saying that being in other countries brings you more opportunity can be true, but I feel like you also have to understand the narrative of where the world's going to go. I kind of, take advantage of the trends and the markets.
What do you think the trend is, especially in Thailand? What do you think Thai people should hop on?
Study artificial intelligence, and a lot of the big companies like NVIDIA and also, the big chip companies, NVIDIA, AMD, they're running a lot of like the kind of AI markets, they're making a lot of the AI. So I would study that, and I feel like with the AI, you can also learn automation and workflows and a lot of the skills that are going to be useful in the future. But definitely one skill that is never going to go away is human communication and emotional connection. So yeah, it's definitely one that's going to stay.
I think if you are currently in an underprivileged position from a low socioeconomic background, it is very hard to even go abroad because oftentimes it takes a lot of capital. So it really is dependent on, I think, the people who are privileged to go abroad, but then bring back the good ideas to help the society.
It's a really good question. I think that there is some countries where there are those opportunities, but from my perspective, I think the idea that if you go to America that you will be able to just work hard and become a millionaire overnight, there is still a class system. It's just a less obvious one over there. I think in Thailand, if you are from a more modest background, but you have a lot of potential, you work hard, sometimes maybe you do have to go abroad to just get those bona fides, the skills and language abilities and network that then you do come back and it doesn't matter about your background anymore.
What do you think the government or the private sector can do aside from offering a good salary or a better salary to entice students to come back and build in Thailand?
I think it's a lot of things. One of them can be like making sure that there's clear like private and sector partnerships to make sure that you actually make sure the private sector actually builds for the skills and jobs necessary to get the jobs necessary. Because otherwise, if they don't do that, kids don't know what's out there. Kids don't know what skills they need to know. And so if there's a better connection in like that sense, and there's a bridge that can spill over, it would allow for the kids who are studying to have a very clear understanding of what they can do to secure a good job and actually secure a high-paying job as well.
So they should promote the idea, because I feel like there's more people promoting the idea of going abroad than actually going back to their own country and saying that, oh, the US is like better than Thailand. I always hear about that. I never heard like, oh, you should come back to our country and actually live here because it's already a great country. It's like, I feel like I've always been taught by my parents that like, hey, you should go to US or UK because that's like where all the good education is at, and not really about here.
I think they need to give more of an important role to younger people to have a say in the governing of this country, because it is a lot of, well, what you see in a lot of countries, it's a lot of the older generations that still hold on to the reins of power for longer. And by the time they leave, then it's like the people who are taking over for them, they're also older as well. So when you're younger, it's like you don't really feel like you have as much of a voice. And this causes people who do have maybe the potential to contribute in a positive way to the society's development to kind of not really have that opportunity. So if the government were to carve out some space for young people to have a say in the way things that are going, especially things that affect their generation directly, that could be more enticing than just money.
To answer this, actually, I think there will be a talk about how SCBX actually bring a lot of talents back to Thailand, but I think ultimately it's also depend on what you want to do and what you have, what does like the country has to provide as well. So I think at the end of the day, like all the new technology, all the research, because most of the time when kids doesn't come back when they do PhDs, they don't have like the job that is aligned with them. So I think at the end of the day, you need to develop into that to be able to have like the job that, at the end of the day, these kids want to come back because they have the job aligned with them, the money that they have and all of that stuff. I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to come back to Thailand because of how much easier to live. Especially for me, I live born in Europe and in the UK, US. I definitely think that Thailand is much easier to live compared to those countries. Okay, to a certain extent, they might have better stuff, but I think at the end, like food, everything is much better and all of that. So I think everyone wants to come back, but the question is, when they come back, can they do the things that they like and get the enough of what they should deserve to get? I think that's a key question more, and I think we need to tackle that question more.
I think what governments can do, which I think they are doing to some extent right now, but they should invest more into like growing industries, which I think like for us who are going abroad, we're studying in more advanced industries, which I think there's less opportunities in Thailand. So obviously the government can invest much more money to those areas. And then also for private companies, I think there's a shift towards making new branches within like the large companies, like smaller sections of those companies, or like more startups that are within companies to give more room for other people abroad, that come from abroad to grow and give like, I think enough money for them to attract them into your company.
Like for example, if you look at Google, or like a lot of the time it's in Singapore. And I think the question we have to ask is why is that the case? Because Singapore itself, you definitely know it's like it's much smaller and all of that stuff. So I think if we can bring like since that type of like tech company to come, then it's actually going to bring a lot of like attraction or like kids to come back already, because that is where I think they can pay you, they can have the job that you want to do and all of this stuff. So I think we need to look into more of that reason why like most of the big tech company or most of the company who come from the US doesn't really open headquarters in Thailand and stuff as well.
They go to Singapore or Hong Kong.
Yeah, so most of the time they don't come here, right? Like the only one I can think of is a big one is Agoda, and the reason is because I think it was found here or something like that. But yeah, definitely not like a big tech company. We do have Google, we do have Meta, but the thing they're doing is very small compared to like SCB or other places, right?
Obviously, we know that in Thailand, there's a lot of governmental issues and economic issues that's happening that's preventing people from rising up and undergoing social mobility. But we also have our own culture that is preventing us from also rising up. That, for example, the idea of acceptance, the idea of sabai sabai. Which part do you feel like is stopping Thai locals from actually rising up?
I feel like there's definitely the aspect of sabai sabai because I've worked in both Thailand, America, and Singapore. I feel like Singaporean work culture, the reason they're able to become so successful nowadays is because they're willing to put in the work. They're willing to like stay in school for a long time and get into like those high-paying jobs. Whereas opposed to Thai people, where I feel like a lot of us really just want like a relaxing job, something we could retire with. So that I feel like that's somewhat holding us down from becoming successful. But also, that doesn't necessarily need fixing. Like if people are okay with like living a chill life, then I think that's fine.
I think
The structural issues come in when there is someone who's actually motivated who wants to climb that and is prevented because they might not have the network or the connections. Yeah. There's a lot of
That's why there's brain drain into like other countries.
Part of the reason why people cannot move up the social mobility.
I think oftentimes people blame the locals for the current situation they're in, but a lot of times I think it's like the larger government instability that makes it that a lot of times the government officials, especially high-level politicians, they might not actually care for the people, at the bottom, but they care about enriching themselves on the top. And so that kind of creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where they're not investing money back into the, lower socioeconomic background people, and therefore it's harder for them to rise up. So I think the problem at this point shouldn't be focused at the bottom, but should be focused on getting the top to help the bottom.